This has got to be the funnest. Most fun? Is funnest a word? This has got to be the funnest or most fun unit that has been released this year. I am a massive fan of Boss pedals for live music. So when I saw the new Gigcaster lineup of interfaces, I was obviously intrigued. So I called them and they sent me this, the GCS-5. And well, after some time playing with it, there's some great, some good, some bad, and some horrific. So let's break all that down. But first, let's go over what you get if you buy one of these. As far as the build quality is concerned, this thing fits in with the rest of the field. The top is a metal design and the rest is plastic. Of course, I have the smaller of the interfaces and much fewer buttons to push. This one has 2 XLR inputs on the back, but the instrument on the front overtakes input 1 if you're going to use a guitar. Also, there is a keyboard input on the back as well. Now, if you get the larger version, you do get combo jacks on all the inputs. I'm not sure why they didn't just do a combo jack for input 1. Kind of weird. It's a standard layout on the interface, and frankly, nothing seems out of place. The screen, though it is a bit small, is very good and quite reactive. Pretty decent for a first-time interface from Boss. All in all, it's a pass. This is 24-bit and 48 kilohertz. It has 2 XLR inputs and 2 headphone outs. It also has the ability to be used with a foot switch and can be USB powered. And of course, it has all the effects with it, and that is really all I can find on it. Now, I guess we're going to have to take Roland's word that the inputs are super low noise. I swear, though, one of these days, I'm going to start testing EIN. Just stay tuned for that. And to be fair, this thing is being sold as a streaming interface, so you're going to have to keep that in mind, and we'll discuss that more coming up in a bit. And if you're one of those people that hates another app on your computer, well, you're going to hate this. The Gigcaster app needs to be loaded up so you can do all the fun stuff on your computer, and it is a bit clunky. I mean, it isn't the worst I've seen, and once you get used to it, you'll be fine, but the flow in here is interesting to say the least. But this is where you do all of your setup and you can assign to your pedals. Also, if you are used to setting up pedals already, most of this shouldn't be an issue for you. But if you haven't ever done that, prepare yourself for a bit of a learning curve. To start out, there are several stock setups though, and you can expand from there. Okay, then I guess we'll start with the cons, but where to start from there? I guess maybe at the beginning. The setup of this thing was a bit of a nightmare. This is the first time installing any drivers on any computer that I actually had to resort to reading a bloody README file. Now, that said, if you do just that and you actually read the things like a good boy, you're probably going to be fine. The updating of the actual firmware of the unit was also brutal. Again, read the file before you do it and follow all the steps. I'm not sure why it's so difficult, but considering it's actually attached to your computer, having to ingest them manually seems a tad much. Do remember though, the storage space on here that you're uploading them to is in megabytes, so you have to do one at a time, which drove me rather mad. A better update system would be one of my first asks for any second-gen version of this thing. Secondly, the companion app is actually quite slow. Loading it can take up to 30 seconds and even had a few slowdowns while I was working in it. I'm not sure why it's so slow, but for a live stream, do make sure everything is loaded up and ready to go before you start streaming. Also, when you do load it up, sometimes the bloody thing just refuses to recognize the GCS-5. So frustrating, and you have to unplug it and do it all over again. And when you just want to do the thing with the thing, it's frustrating that the thing won't do the thing. Anyways. Serenity now! And finally for cons, if you have any need of troubleshooting this thing, get ready for some frustration. There is no way to actually contact somebody with either Roland or Boss to troubleshoot, or at least No way that I could find. Now, that kind of stuff is pretty disheartening and makes me think twice about purchasing something from them. Perhaps I'm wrong and there's a number to call, but if that's the case, maybe make it a little easier to find. As for the pros, it's basically a box with all the Boss Pedal emulations, and that is awesome. Setting up signal chains is a breeze, and even if you've never done that before, there are some decent presets that you can play with while you learn the system. Also, it's just a really nice unit, and if you're a streamer that really wants to up their game for music, this could do it quite nicely. And here is the interesting quandary. Now, I get why they're gatekeeping the ability to use this thing live. I mean, they have gear for that very thing, and you don't want to cannibalize your lineup too much. And while this thing is super cool, there are some things you need to keep in mind. This is not meant as a professional interface for creating music. The lack of specs detailing things like EIN are suspect, but also the cap at 48 kilohertz for sample rate keep this thing well in its lane. It is literally as sold. A streamer interface for delighting your fans with your guitar skills, or in my case, a lack thereof. So in reality, it does easily fulfill its promise. If you are in fact looking for just that, a streaming interface while being able to lay down some tracks from time to time, this thing's going to be for you. But if you want more, sadly, this thing isn't going to make the cut. Now, if you excuse me, I need to write a 2000s-esque new metal song with the Metal Zone pedal. This thing is a lot of fun though.